Hello, everyone. My name is Tina Swanek, and I am the Career Explorer Northwest producer for KSPS PBS Public Television here in Spokane, Washington. Career Explorer Northwest Live is an interactive Zoom event that connects young people with professionals so they can learn about careers and career paths. Today's event is a joint Career Explorer Northwest Live and Business After School program brought to you in partnership by KSPS PBS and Greater Spokane Incorporated. And here to welcome you from GSI is Director of Education and Talent, Rebecca Clemens.
Welcome to Career Explorer Northwest Live. I'm Rebecca Clemens, Director of Education and Talent at Greater Spokane Incorporated. GSI is Spokane's Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development organization. We're excited to bring you today's event, a collaboration between Career Explorer Northwest Live and the Business After School program. This interactive Zoom session is designed to connect you with professionals across a variety of industries, helping students explore different career paths and gain real-world insight. GSI is proud to partner with KSPS PBS to make this experience possible and look forward to an engaging and informative session with you all.
GSI is an absolutely amazing partner for us, and we're very excited to be able to bring you this event alongside them. And during today's event, we'll be exploring careers in interior design with the help of two special guests, Eileen Link of Edda Interiors and Katrina Baumgartner of Freeform Interiors. And they're both up on the screen there. Eileen's on the right, Katrina's on the left. Just real quickly, Eileen holds a BA in interior design from Washington State University and has worked in the industry for nearly 15 years. She's the founder of Edda Interiors, a full-service interior design firm in Spokane that specializes in commercial and residential design. Eileen is an award-winning designer with a vast range of project experience in multifamily, higher education, healthcare, workplace, K-12, residential, and hospitality design. Katrina, on the left, also holds a BA in interior design from Washington State University and has over 11 years of professional experience. She's worked at both large commercial firms and small boutique design studios across the country. And Katrina has spent the last 5 years specializing in commercial furniture solutions at Freeform Interiors, where she's the senior account manager and helps manage the Spokane sales team. So thank you both for being here today to visit with our student guests. Now let's meet our high school guests. Joining our event today are students from University High School with Running Start and College and Career Specialist Nicole Rippey. Thank you for being with us today. Okay, let's get started. Eileen, would you first share a little with us about your education and career paths? And then I know you have some work as well to show, so just let us know when you'd like us to share your slides.
Perfect. Thanks, Tina. I got my degree from WSU about 15 years ago. I did take an unorthodox path. I started as an accountant on an accounting degree at Gonzaga and then transferred to SSCC and then ultimately got my bachelor's from WSU in interior design. And from there, I entered the interior design industry in commercial furniture, and I learned so much about how to space plan and specifying, and that really was a great catalyst for launching my career at a large commercial architecture firm. And there I worked on healthcare projects, multifamily, higher ed, and I feel like that's really where I grew a ton, learned a lot about the industry. And then as life does, it took me on many different paths. I worked in Oklahoma. I had a very strong desire to have business ownership. And so I knew that that was going to ultimately be the goal, but I kind of hopped around from different firms, which was really great because I learned a lot of different methodologies. And from there, I ultimately opened my own firm and have been owning that for about 4 years now.
Great, thank you so much. We do have some examples of your work, and we'd like to go ahead and share those now if you want to talk through those slides with us.
So I'm going to share a series of before and after photos of a residential project. So when I was employed at firms, I almost strictly worked in the commercial industry, and then I worked for a small residential firm, and I really discovered that I had a passion for both residential and commercial. And so as a business owner, I take on both project types. And this was one of my very first projects when I launched my business, and I felt super excited and that the clients trusted me as a new business owner. But what the conditions were is that they had a really small kitchen in their 70s home that was very closed off from the living room and adjacent spaces. So this, you can kind of see the view of their pantry and kitchen. And there's a funky little opening that looks like a window, but is not, that just looks beyond. So there was just a lot of things in their space that they weren't happy with and that they wanted us to tackle in the design. One of the best features in this home, though, was that wood ceiling that you can kind of see a peek of. It is just an original cedar ceiling, and it was really beautiful in person, but it was kind of being overshadowed by dark paint and carpet and just not great space planning. So one of the goals of the design was to really let that ceiling be the showstopper of the space. And this blue wall that you're seeing, we demoed. So in the after photo, that will no longer exist, and you'll see how we solved that structurally. This is a view into what was a playroom at the time, and we turned it into a pantry. So since their kitchen was incredibly small, they really didn't have a lot of storage space. Their children loved the playroom, but they decided that they could use their bedrooms as a playroom and really utilize this space for more storage and purpose for their everyday needs. Just another peek into the playroom, so you can kind of see what's going on with the ceiling structurally. We take a ton of existing photos because when we go into design, we're constantly referencing the existing photos to jog our memory of what the conditions are. Another lovely photo of the before, the classic oak cabinets. Although oak is definitely back in, the tone is completely different than what it used to be. And this is the after. So where you see that island, that's where that blue wall was previously. And you can see that the cedar ceiling is just stunning against the really neutral walls. We did bring in some oak back, but it's a white oak versus a red oak with the island and some of the cabinet trees. Beyond the island, you can see the pantry doors into that playroom. So this was completely transformative of their space, not only visually, but functionally. They can now cook dinner while their kids are playing and they can see their children. When they're entertaining, they feel like they're with their guests versus back in a kitchen. So the flow of the space was completely transformed by taking that wall out. This is one of my favorite photos still. I just love the light cascading from the pantry. The pantry doors were definitely an investment. They are custom white oak pocket doors. And we put glass panes in because there's so much natural light beyond. We didn't want to lose all of that natural light that they were used to. So we love how it cascades into the space, but they can still close the pantry off for a visual separation. And then in the pantry, not all kitchens have the space to do this, but we did have a secondary sink added, which is really fun. They have a main sink in the kitchen and then a pantry sink, and that's great for food prep, making coffee in the morning, and you can really just kind of separate your work zones, and that really helps with function as well. This is a great little detail shot of the tile and the pot filler. The aesthetic the clients had, they didn't want to completely diverge from the 70s type of architecture of the home, but they really gravitated towards more of a traditional style. So we really tried to blend the two where we had nods to the 70s, but also brought in some of those transitional details. So the lighting and some of the metal fixtures really complement the 70s architecture, and then brought in some transitional and traditional details in the hood and the cabinet faces. And this is a little peek into the pantry. We did a walnut butcher block top, which is just really beautiful and functional. They can chop on it, they can prep food on it, but it has a really nice richness compared to the white cabinets. And that used to be a playroom, and now it is a beautiful, beautiful pantry. And in this slide, that drop-down hutch, it has articulating doors. So it's really fun because you can open the doors, slide them back, and that's where all of their coffee maker, coffee beans, coffee mugs, everything is just housed in that drop-down hutch, which is really nice. Thank you so much for letting me share that project.
Eileen, honestly, if you had shown me those pictures separately, I would not have known it was the same space.
that those are the best before and afters where you can
The
hardly believe
transformation
it.
is the transformation
Yeah.
is absolutely incredible. So congratulations on some excellent work there. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for sharing a little bit about your journey as well.
Mhm.
Katrina, would you
Yes,
like to share with us a little bit about your career and educational journey? And I know we have some work of yours or some images to share as well that you'll talk us through.
yes, of course. Well, I'm Katrina Baumgartner. Thanks for joining us today. I'm a senior account manager here at Freeform, and Freeform is a commercial furniture dealer, so a little bit different than a straight interiors firm. We do everything from designing furniture, procuring, which is purchasing furniture, and then installing the furniture as well. So interior design here is just a little piece of the entire puzzle. My background, as Tina mentioned, I am also a WSU graduate, go Cougs. I've been practicing for about 12 years now, which is crazy to say. But straight out of school, I went to Indianapolis and worked at a really large architecture firm. And about a year of that, I decided to go to move back to Washington and start at a small kind of boutique interiors firm that only did interior design. And there's where I spent most of my career journey. So I learned a ton there. And I learned about commercial furniture there as well. I did a lot of furniture specifications there, and that's where I really fell in love with furniture design. So fast forward a few more years, I started at Freeform Interiors as a project designer. And then a few years ago, so I've been at Freeform for about 6 years now. And a few years ago, I moved into account management. So kind of had a long kind of career path and transitioning into account management, which is kind of the sales side, but I still like to poke and have fun in the interior side as well. I wanted to show a little bit about what interior design is at a commercial furniture dealer. So something that we use a lot in interior design is a program called CET. So in interior design, you're going to learn probably AutoCAD, Revit. Those are the computer programs that you're going to use to space plan. But in furniture, we use a specialized software called CET. And what this allows you to do, as you can see, is pull in specific parts and pieces and move them around in real time. So we use this with our clients. We pull this up on the screen and they can say, okay, I really like that workstation, but can it be white? And then we can just, with a click of a button, show that. So this is a really powerful tool if you like all the nuts and bolts and parts and pieces. Interior design is a really fun career path. So our designers spend a lot of time working on the software at their computers, but we also get to go into the field. This is a recent photo actually from about 2 weeks ago of me and one of our project designers, Kelly. We're at a hospital that we're working on taking field verification. So we use the AutoCAD plans. We can use a PDF, hand sketch plan, but we always have to make sure that the furniture that we're designing is actually going to fit into these spaces. So sometimes you're going to have to put your hard hat on. You're going to get your tape measure out, go to the site, take your measurements, check for power and data locations. We do a lot of workstations, a lot of private offices. So making sure that those users are going to have the functionality of the power and data on the correct wall is also super important. So it's a good blend of sitting at your desk, getting stuff done, but also being out in the field and getting up and out of your seat. And these are a few of my favorite projects that I've worked on so far. I do a wide range of projects, a lot of corporate projects. So on the top left there, that is Swinnerton. They're actually a construction company, but we designed their office, which was really fun. They had a really great aesthetic, very masculine, very clean, industrial. And we also got to do the walls there. So you'll see those black walls in the background with the mullions on them. Those are actually a furniture solution. So they're a modular wall that goes up during the furniture installation process. And there's I could give you a whole spiel about why they're better than typical construction, but you get the really kind of fine fit and finish of furniture, and also goes up way faster than drywall, paint, and all of that. So that was a fun project. To the right is McCase Esposito. They're an engineering firm. So they really wanted a bright space. They really liked biophilia, so incorporating plants into the space. But because this had a concrete floor and those really tall ceilings, they were really worried about acoustics. So we added some fun acoustical screens throughout their workstations to help with that. And then on the bottom there, you can see two very different types of projects. On the left is a clubhouse and a multifamily project. So those are apartment type complexes. They're clubhouses. That's my favorite type of project to do. The kind of more higher end design, really fun, high impact spaces. We do the clubhouses, both interior and exterior, like next to the pool decks. And then on the opposite spectrum of kind of hospitality design would be healthcare design, very, cleanable, high warranty, very high durability for those high traffic areas. So furniture seems like it would be easy and it's just a chair is a chair, but it's not. And there's a lot to the commercial furniture industry.
The variety in your work is absolutely astounding. I mean, all of those spaces look incredible. And the whole process just seems so fascinating to me. So I can't wait to hear what our students have in terms of questions about the process that you guys go through, and some of the specifics about your career and your job. So we'll go ahead and start the question and answer portion of our event. And students, because we have two presenters today, when you're asking your question, if you could please specify whether your question is for Eileen or Katrina or both, that would be very helpful. So we'll go ahead and unmute University High School. And Yuhai, what is your first question for our guests?
My first one's for Eileen. I believe she was the one who went to WSU, correct?
Both of them did.
Both of them, perfect. Okay, then this kind of go for both of you. I'm applying to WSU. Would you say that your career, like that was a really good school to go to, or would you have preferred to go to somewhere else?
I can start. If you're going specifically for interior design, yes. So you need to look for something that is CETA accredited. And as far as I'm aware, this might have changed a few years ago, but WSU and I think Bellevue College are the only ones in Washington State that are CETA accredited. And that's just going to mean that they cover all of what you need for commercial interior design. There are other design programs. I think like the Art Institute of Seattle has one, but they're not CETA accredited. So I would look for that. It's CIDA. But I would say, yeah, WSU is a huge part of, I think, my success, and a lot of the designers in Spokane and around the area, even in Seattle, all went to WSU.
My experience with WSU is a little bit different because I didn't attend it for all 4 years. I started at Gonzaga in accounting and then realized accounting wasn't for me. And then I moved to the Falls Community College because they have an interior design program. And I ultimately wanted a bachelor's. So that's why I did the Falls and then went to WSU. And both honestly were amazing experiences. The Falls was much more technically inclined. And my experience at WSU is they were much more conceptual about design. So it was like you get really big thinking and like thinking out of the box about projects. And at the Falls, it was like, how do you draft this project and how do you detail this project? And so it was a really great marriage of the two for me personally, because they both kind of pushed me in different ways. But if you want that traditional college experience, I think, and you want interior design, I think WSU is a fantastic fit because it has so many fun things outside of the design program that are great for college. But if you want to stay close to town and save some money, you can always start at a community college and then transfer in and get your BA.
I would also add University of Idaho also has a great interior design program.
Is the design process like?
What is the design process like? That's a really good question. I'm sure Katrina and I will have very different answers, but for me personally, it's incredibly rewarding. it's a huge, often most projects are a huge problem to solve, which sounds funny because you think after doing it for 15 years, I would know everything and I would, be able to solve things very quickly. But every project just poses a new challenge, something you haven't crossed before. So that's one of my favorite things about this industry is that every day is different. It's even though we sit at a desk a lot, you're just kind of tackling different things all the time. And it is so rewarding. Like when you meet that end goal or the finished product, there's nothing better in the world than seeing your work done well and the client happy and the team happy. But I will not sugarcoat it for you. It can be frustrating, especially if your creative juices aren't flowing one day. You can kind of you have to kind of keep exploring and pushing yourself to find the right design solution.
My design process, man, it really varies per project for us. So we have some small projects or, clients that we've been working with for a long time that know and trust us. And so the design process for those are pretty easy. It's like, hey, we need 10 more offices that we've bought before. Okay, we're going to design it, we're going to execute it, and it's fine. But if it's a newer client, then it's a lot of discovery. So you have to be comfortable asking a lot of questions to kind of get out from the client what they want. So lots of questions up front, kind of gathering the information and then going back to your desk and preparing designs. And sometimes you don't get it right the first time. So I think that's one thing I had to learn early in my career is to have thick skin, because I came all excited that I had this amazing design and the client's just like, no, I don't like that. It's like, ouch. Okay. But you learn to pick and brush yourself off and try again. So the design process is collaborative, whether it's with a coworker, your clients. So you're always working kind of on a team, unless Eileen, you still work with your clients, but she's owner by herself. So a little bit different for me, but yeah, collaborative, I would say. And yeah, sometimes it takes 5, 6 iterations of design and little tweaks here and there until you get to the perfect design. So it can be messy, it can be clean, it just depends on the client and the project.
Okay, next question, Yuhai.
Mine's kind of similar, but mine was like, how do you balance function and aesthetic in like your work?
A great question. I think function almost always trumps aesthetic in a lot of, that's what I think we lead with in design. So when we're space planning and when we're figuring out the solution, it always starts with function. If it's in the commercial sector, you have to meet so many ADA codes and regulations. And so there's a lot of rules to follow. And then in the residential side, there's still certainly codes, but it's a lot different than in commercial. So you're kind of figuring out the puzzle piece. And while you're doing that, like your mind is starting to turn about what this could start to look in 3D and physically. And so you're kind of like doing both of them in tandem. But I would say even clients, like function will almost always come first. And then that's the magic of design. Like you have to also make it look incredibly beautiful depending on the space and the goals of the client. But I would say always start with function.
Yep, and I would agree with that. And another thing that nobody likes to talk about is budget. So budget is really the kind of triumph thing, and then obviously function and then aesthetics. And you can make something cheap look amazing. So but it has to fit within the budget and it has to be functional in order to be good.
What kind of skills do you think a person should have to go into interior design?
I think everyone has different strengths. And that's kind of the beauty of our world. Some of us are going to be really strong at communication and presentations and how we speak and communicate the design. Others are going to be so more technically inclined. So you're going to find your strength in the design world. But one of the things Katrina said that I think is absolutely true is you do really need to learn to have thick skin, because when I first started, I just felt crushed when you think you come up with the best solution and the client or the team you're working on thinks otherwise, like you just need to learn to, it's part of the process and go with the flow. I think another skill, and these are all skills you acquire, by the way. So I don't think anyone starts their career with these skills dialed. We all refine them and fine tune them as we grow in our career, and I'm still doing that. So just FYI, if you feel like, oh, that I don't have that, everything is learnable, everything is figure outable. So I think beyond having thick skin, I think just being willing to learn and being willing to ask questions. I think so often people don't ask questions because they're afraid they're going to be viewed as ignorant or something along those lines. And honestly, if you can ask all the questions in the beginning of your career, that's the time to do it. And then learn to be a good communicator. That's probably the number one thing in our field is if your client can't understand it, they're never going to buy off on it. So kind of just practice those communication skills, practice presentations, kind of think of the questions your client's going to ask you before they even ask you. So you're prepared. I could go on and on about skills, but I think communication and being willing to learn are huge in this field, in all fields, honestly.
Yeah, I think those are great skills. I'll go probably more of along the lines of what you're probably thinking about when you ask this question. Obviously, interior design is a creative industry. There are some interior designers that are just very, very creative and they don't have very strong technical skills. And then there's some designers that are very technical, love all the parts and pieces, love doing, construction drawings and all that. That's me. I'm definitely more of that left brain type of person, but I do think you need to have at least a little bit of both sides of those cylinders kind of firing in your brain. You can be very technical, but still have that kind of passion for design and like a little flavor of creativity, or it can be vice versa. And one of my favorite coworkers that I ever worked with was like opposite brained as me. So she would come up with these like amazing concepts and like all these, she could pick finishes, lay everything down, be crazy patterns, and it would look amazing. And I cannot do that. I'm like, okay, let me like document all that into a spreadsheet for you. So don't think that if you are, more technical, but like you like a little bit of creativity that you can't go into interior design, because it really takes both types of brains to make everything work.
I love that. There's a place for everyone.
Yeah.
You, hi, next question.
My next question is, one, how much do you guys make like on a yearly salary? And if you guys could start out somewhere, where would you guys want to start out, like state-wise?
I can go first. I think our career has such a wide range of salary earning potential, if you will. When I started out, I think I made like $20,000 a year, and I was very excited about that. So I was so excited to enter the career. But I think the starting rate is much higher now than then, but it really ranges. I have made over my last 15 years, such a wide range of salaries. And then running my own business, it also goes up and down drastically. So I can have months that are just really, really high, and then months where I'm kind of coasting until the next month. And then location, I mean, Spokane is oddly, probably because we have WSU and U of I in the falls, but like it is a hub for interior design opportunities. There are so many firms here, so many opportunities. So if you wanted to stay local, you would certainly find something that worked for you. But I think location-wise is just such a personal decision. Like if you wanted that big city experience, or if you kind of wanted to stay more in your hometown. But I think there's opportunity in both.
Yeah. I knew you guys were going to ask this question, so I asked my design manager what the starting salary is for interior design right now, and she said about 55,000. So by the time you guys graduate, of course, inflation's going up and up, so I would expect it to be a little bit more than that. But like Eileen said, it ranges so much. I mean, if you're a senior designer or principal at a firm, I'm assuming you would be making like six figures. So wide range, all between depending on experience and what your job title is. And yeah, I echo what Eileen said. Like, there's lots of opportunity in Spokane. If you wanted to go to a big city and work at a big firm, go for it. That's what I did straight out of school. And I did that for a year, and it was eye-opening and a great way to start your career journey. So there's no bad choice. Big firm, small firm, try it all, see what you like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question.
I said, what can your budgets be like? It's similar to hers. Oh, for projects. Yeah.
I have done all of the budgets. I've had a little bathroom remodel that was like $5,000, all the way up to like 120 million on a large commercial project. So, a lot of I'm on a project like that right now that's like 125 million is the budget. But that, I'm Katrina's probably similar as far as scale. It really just ranges. I'm a little unique because I take on small and large things. So commercially, that's how big they go. Residentially, I think some of my custom homes have been around 1.5 to 2 million. And then kitchen renos have been like around 100,000 lately. So it really just varies. But again, I take on so many different scales of projects. So
Yeah, same answer. I can sell one cash chair to someone for $300 or sell $3 million to a new hospital. So yeah, wide range of projects.
mm-hmm.
Okay, next question, Yuhai.
Mine was like, how many like jobs in Washington could you find for like interior design?
Great question. I think I'll start, Eileen, and you can ponder and come up with more probably. So you can be an interior designer, like at a straight interiors firm like DS Studio here in Spokane. You could be an interior designer at an architecture firm. You can be an interior designer at a commercial furniture dealer like Freeform. You could go into sales and be an interior designer like me. You could own your own business like Eileen. You can specialize in residential only or commercial only or both. So there's 7. What else am I missing? You could be a furniture or a rep. So in our industry, like all these fabrics and like binders behind me, every single one of these brands has a manufacturer's rep. So like there's a Blue Dot rep that will come and call on us to try to sell their products. So some interior designers go into that. That would be a sales kind of role as well.
Yeah, and then there's also designers that work specifically for companies, like they're in-house designers. So like Amazon has in-house designers that do all of their offices. I have a friend that I graduated school with, and she works at Starbucks, and she specializes in all of their flagship stores. So they're very, very fun, high-end Starbucks stores. She gets to kind of manage all of those. So it's an interesting career in the fact that there's so many options. You could be I have friends that just strictly do cabinets, like they're into the millwork and cabinetry line. So there's just so many options, and you'll see designers kind of cross, like they'll be in an architecture firm for a decade, and then they go over to sales, and they really enjoy that change of pace and that, and you're still in the industry creative place. Your role's just different. So that's what's kind of amazing about our career. And obviously we're biased, but there's lots of options. Some people even go into teaching. They'll eventually become a professor at one of the schools. My teacher did that. She practiced for like 20 some years, and then she's been teaching for like the last decade. So yeah, you're never going to be pigeonholed. You can always pivot.
what is something that you wish you knew before you went into interior design?
That's a great question. I think the unfortunate part about school is you can't learn it all there. Most of what I learned was in the field, and I think I wish I had a better grasp of that, because I can be like an overachiever and really set my bars high. And that was kind of a big letdown to be thrown into the field and feel like I don't know anything. So I think knowing that you have so much to learn, and that's okay. I also wish I knew the vast, amazing variety of products, because I was very limited in school, my knowledge of all the different tiles and fabrics. And so that's an exciting part when you jump in, is you're just going to dive deep into all the different products. And yeah, there's so much to learn. I'm excited to hear what Katrina thinks about this question.
I was just gonna say, I wish I knew what interior design was. Like, I didn't even know it was a career choice, which is why I think it's so amazing that we're doing this today. I actually started out in architecture. And a year into that, my professor pulled me aside and was like, I think you should check out interior design. And I was like, okay, what's that? And I took like a summer immersive program and fell in love with it. So I think just learning as much as you can, like obviously this is great here today, but yeah, doing your research, just learning what it is, I think is the biggest thing.
Mhm.
I have a question. Sorry, I'm behind the scenes.
Mhm.
How has AI impacted your job, and kind of how you, I guess, perceive the different clients and projects that you work with?
I have used AI to help with proposals. So a proposal, like when I'm trying to get a project, I kind of have to put together a resume of work that I've done and information on it. And I have used AI to kind of help get some of those descriptions going, and then I will edit it and tailor it to suit the project a little bit, curate it more to the project. But that's been really helpful and useful, is using AI for proposal writing. Um, our 3D visuals, where it's like a photorealistic rendering. That is also just huge when I'm presenting and communicating to clients, and that's just getting better and better and better. It's funny because when I started in the field, when you hit render, it would take the computer like 24 hours to render it. And so you would come back the next day and you'd like, oh, the lighting's off, and you'd have to make all these adjustments and then hit render again and like wait a whole day until you could see it. And now I can like real time can see how like my finishes are looking, my lighting's looking, and I can edit it in real time. And that's probably the biggest tool that I use for sure in like my day to day.
Yeah, I would say the software, just technology is amazing. And yeah, like what I was showing you on the CET software that we use, that is such a big help. We use a little bit of AI for kind of the same that Eileen was talking about, like proposals, or if you need to write a resume, put it into Chat GPT, but that's about it. I think AI hasn't come far enough yet to really say, to really help us with like design proposals visual wise. I've tried a little bit and it's just horrible. So we'll wait another year or two and then see what it can do. But yeah, it's not taking over the field of interior design. I mean, there's always going to have to be the humans doing it.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So Yuhai, what's your next question?
I guess, what software do you use in your career? And what percentage of time would you say is spent learning different types of software? Like, how tech savvy do you need to be?
I use it heavily. I use Revit. It's what most architects use. It's like a 3D modeling tool to generate your floor plans and your roof plans and all your elevation. So pretty much to create a set of drawings to hand off to a contractor so they know how to build it. So I'm in Revit a lot. I'm also in a software called SketchUp. You may have heard of it. That one's really fun. It's super user friendly. Revit can be incredibly tech savvy, or it's just tech heavy. And it takes a while to, I mean, I'm still learning things in Revit. I'm like, oh, why is it doing this? It's just a complex software, but that is probably the most prevalent in the architecture industry. And then SketchUp, honestly, if you went home today and Googled SketchUp, I bet you guys could be cruising in it by tonight. It's so fun. You can kind of just pop walls up, make a little room, throw some furniture in there, and just kind of create space fairly quickly. And get the juices flowing. And so I also use that one quite a bit. And that one isn't as far as a time commitment to learn. I feel like Revit, taking a course in drafting is huge. And then similarly to what we were saying earlier, I still learn most of my Revit skills in the field, even though I took it in school. I kind of learned like proper standards and proper modeling techniques when I worked at large firms. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would say you learn a lot of those skills in school. So that's a big emphasis at WSU and the Falls, as well as learning those programs. So you're not going to be thrown in at the start of your career not knowing how to use these things. You're gonna be taught that in school. I'm a little bit different since I am in the sales side of things. So I'm in a lot of meetings. I do a lot of quoting. So I'm in our quoting software working alongside the designers who bring in the bill of materials, and I input all the discounts and everything in there. But our designers are in CET, which is our modeling software. I'd say 80–90% of their day, they are in there a lot designing things. Also in meetings with clients, though, to get feedback and taking that back to their models and making the updates. So it's definitely a tech savvy field.
Thank you. I think we just have, like I say, a few more minutes. So Katrina, Eileen, is there anything that you feel is important for the students to know that maybe they didn't ask about today when they're taking a look at whether or not interior design might be a good fit for them? And we'll start with Katrina.
Oh, I was thinking about this and I already used my little tidbit, but it's more about, your left and right brain and how it really takes both to be good at interior design. So if you're super creative, but you can flex to be technical, interior design's good. And if you're opposite, if you're very like tech and like all the nuts and bolts, but you like a little bit of creativity, you can be good too. So I think there's room at the table for everyone in interior design, and you can specialize in what you love.
I definitely agree with that. I think so. I think I mentioned this earlier, but just being willing to learn, and it's okay to make mistakes. You're likely going to make mistakes. But I think just having that ability to try new things, ask the questions, and having an open mind, because it's an ever evolving field. Once you feel like you learned some things, new things come out and new codes come out. And so there's always just more to learn. Yeah, but I think it's a fantastic field if it's something that you're interested in. There's so much growth. You never will hit the ceiling in interior design. You'll just continue to evolve.
It looks like U-High let me know they have one more question. If you have time, U-High, before the bell rings, or not sure what happens at 10:25.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering what your guys' like work schedule's like.
You want to go, Katrina?
Sure. So well, my answer is different than project designer, so I'll answer for both. So since I am in sales and kind of running all over the place to clients and doing a lot of Zoom calls and stuff like that, I do typically work from home, but I do come into the showroom about once or twice a week. Standard business hours, 8 to 5. I will say interior design is a creative field. So there's typically more flexibility within creative fields. Some people show up at 9 and work later, or, there's a little bit of flexibility there. It's not your typical, like, you be here at 8 o'clock or you're fired. It is, a little bit flexible, but yeah, designers will put in 40-hour weeks. Occasionally, you need to put in more time if there's a big deadline and projects need to go out the door. I think that's something important to know about interior design is you might have to work, a few extra hours every day a week to get a project out the door. But that means, the next week you can take Friday off or something like that. So it kind of flexes based off of projects, but typical, your standard typical 8 to 5 is what you'll find.
Yeah, mine's a little bit more unique. I try and work while my kids are in school, and then turn it off when they come home. But I think it's being the creative type. I don't really know how to turn it off. So I often, like, after the kids go to bed, get work again. But I think being a business owner, there's just a lot of hats that you wear and things that you have to get done. And I completely agree with Katrina. Like, if there's a deadline, you'll definitely work. That's one of the things of our industry I don't necessarily love is, but you can't get around it, is it's very deadline driven. And you'll just have to work really late nights sometimes to meet deadlines, because you just often can't just tell a client, no, we didn't make it. So, so that there's some late nights for sure, but I agree with Katrina. There's a lot of flexibility as far as timing and, when you feel like you want to work. A lot of places are flexible about that.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we are getting to the end of today's event. So once again, I'd like to thank our special guests, Eileen Link of Edda Interiors and Katrina Baumgartner of Freeform, for taking time to visit with us today. We really appreciate all the information you shared with us about your career journey, some of the ins and outs of being an interior designer and the important things that students need to know. It sounds like absolutely a fascinating job, changing every day, which I assume is part of what you really love about it, is just the variety. And thanks once more to Nicole Rippey and the students from University High School for participating in today's event. We hope you all found this session very informative and interesting, and that especially what you learned today might help you to make a determination about whether or not you would like to be an interior designer in the future. And now, once again, here's Rebecca Clemens from GSI.
Thank you for joining us for Career Explore Northwest Live. On behalf of Greater Spokane Incorporated, we hope today's session helped you explore new career paths, connect with professionals, and gain valuable insight into your future. We're proud to partner with KSPS PBS to bring these experiences to life and support your journey toward success. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and we look forward to seeing where your path leads next. If you have ideas for a speaker or career you would like highlighted, please let us know.
Thank you again, Rebecca and the GSI team. And that concludes this Career Explore Northwest Live and Business After School event.